I asked wedding planners on my Instagram network 2 questions. 1, do I really need a wedding planner? And 2, what's the number 1 reason you get hired? Find out what they said right after this.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I have the absolute pleasure to be your host this evening.
What's up, everyone? My name is MC Spade, and I am a professional magician and a professional wedding MC, having hosted and performed at weddings all across the Greater Toronto Area over the last 10-15 years. In this video, I want to share with you some of the comments that I found out, or I got back feedback from wedding planners when I asked them about their business, why they get hired, and if brides and grooms really need a wedding planner. Now, if you're new here, please hit the like and subscribe button so I can keep doing what I'm doing and keep bringing you more value for absolutely free. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what they said, but maybe let's go to somewhere a little bit warmer first. I've got my passport. Much better. Here we are in Camarillo, California. Much warmer than Toronto right now, and so we've put out questions to different wedding planners throughout the city, and to see what they have to say when we ask them questions like, do I really need a wedding planner? Or what's the number 1 reason you get hired by your clients for coming on board to their wedding? So I put this out there on Instagram, and I got a bunch of responses back, and let's talk about these responses. We hear first from Creating Bliss Events. So they say, we do not treat it as your event, we treat it as our event. And I really like that, because anytime you're bringing on a planner or any vendor, as soon as you realize this is someone who's treating this as their event, your event is going to excel so much more, right? You want someone who's going to treat it kind of like their baby. Sure, maybe they've done this 100 times before, but this might be your first time getting married, or your 3rd time getting married. It doesn't matter. The truth is, you're bringing them on board, and if they can treat it like it's their own baby, then you're set. All right, Monica from Events by Monica has also responded, and she says couples should enjoy that special day and not have to worry about minor details. The same goes for their family. A lot of people rely on their family members to coordinate their events, which prevents them to enjoy these moments. And I agree 100%. As soon as you give a family member or a friend a job to do, whether it's wedding planning, whether it's being a DJ or taking photos, anytime you give them a job to do, guess what? They're not there to enjoy your wedding anymore. They're going to be working, and they've got a job to do. So think about that, right? Wedding planners, since in this video that's what we're talking about, wedding planners specifically have a very vital role. And if something goes wrong the evening of, if there's little gaps in the program, that's something that the planner is going to be able to make, help make a little bit more smooth. Someone who doesn't have experience in this is going to be shaking a little bit and, stressing out, when really they should be out there having fun and celebrating with you. All right, so what's the number 1 reason you get hired? Dash Events Go has responded with, to manage guests, enforce timelines, and execute their vision. The bride and groom will be experiencing many emotions the day of the wedding, and the last emotion they want to experience is execution stress. Leave that to the professionals. Again, Dash Events Go agree with that 100%. Let the professionals who've done this 1,000 times before deal with that type of stress. It's so hard to imagine. If you've never been married before, it's hard to imagine what the emotions are going to be like the day of the event, right? What you're going to forget. You may have practiced things over and over in your head a million times. Maybe you've had a dress rehearsal, but the day of, things can and will go wrong, and that's where an expert steps in. And a lot of the times weddings happen, and the bride and groom sometimes doesn't even know what went wrong until days after, until they find out. And often it's because someone behind the scenes took care of it, and usually it's someone with experience, such as a wedding planner. All right, next question. Do I really need a wedding planner? And Adore Event Planning responded to this. So a wedding takes a lot of organization and many hours, probably over 100 hours on average is dedicated to plan the perfect I do moment. Having a planner or coordinator is a huge step towards a stress-free and successful wedding day. It's not just it's not a cost, but a valuable investment and a huge load off your shoulders, especially the day of your event. So get help. Promise that you will be happy that you did. And again, some of this is reiterating what we've already talked about, but I want to touch on here. So stress-free, I really like that, right? You want to be as stress-free as possible. I know when I got married a couple years back, there were instances where I was stressed out, but I knew I had the key people in the right spots to take care of those mishaps. Some things that we had thought about that could go wrong, and other things we couldn't control. So once again, we want to make it as stress-free as possible. The other thing that Adore Event Planning mentions is talking about it being an investment and not just a cost. And again, I like that. What sometimes people don't realize is that you know, getting a wedding planner, yes, it does have a cost associated to it, but sometimes that cost you'll break even in with the savings that the planner will bring to you. Sometimes you actually save money by bringing a planner. What people don't realize is there's a lot of vendors that give you know, preferred pricing to specific wedding planners. So, you know, you go out and book a photographer or a DJ, you know, it might be a certain amount of money, a certain cost, but when you come through a planner, sometimes you get a bit of a discount, 10 or 15%, and that little bit adds up. And you know, throughout your wedding, as you add all that money, sometimes it turns out that you actually end up saving more money than you spent on the planner. So again, I think it's something you can't go wrong with. I think it's a vital part of your wedding. Again, I'm not a planner. I'm not trying to sell you wedding planning services. If you ask me who do I recommend, you know, I'm not going to tell you to go in a certain direction. This is just you know, free advice. In my experience in hosting hundreds of weddings and being, you know, based on being at hundreds of weddings, you know, I see which weddings are going smoothly and which ones are having trouble. And by far, the ones that have someone coordinating it are going a lot more smoother. Just think about, you know, like a play, for example. Without a director, a play or a movie is going to be all over the place, right? So in some sense, a planner is like that. It's the director. It's the one that's you know, conducting the night, if you will. All right, so once again, do I really need a wedding planner? This time's Impressive Events has responded with, it's beneficial to hire a planner so that the client's vision comes to life as seamlessly as possible. With the support and guidance from a professional, we ensure that the entire planning process is stress-free. So once again, we hear the term stress-free. Very important, keeping the stress low, not just for you, not just for you and your partner, but even stress for the family. There's a lot of emotions going back and forth. You know, let's keep that to a minimum. The other thing that Impressive Events says is vision comes to life as seamlessly as possible. This is very important. Seamlessly, let's think about what that means, right? If you ask any stand-up comedian, any actor, you know, anybody that's on stage, one of the weakest parts of any act is often in between sets. So what are we talking about? You know, you have two acts, a transition that occurs. Now, if you've got 3 or 4 minutes in there of a gap, what are your guests doing? They're sitting there twiddling their thumbs. And it's those key transition moments that separate the good shows from the great shows, right? The good weddings from the great weddings. An event has gone smoothly, flawlessly, seamlessly. You'll know from your guests. They're gonna come up to you and just say, wow, that was one of the best weddings we've ever been to. It feels like a great show, a production, right? Instead of awkward pauses and, you know, just awkward segments throughout the night, which nobody wants. So I like that word, seamless. Impressive Events, thank you for responding. So what's the number one reason you get hired? And Events by Wim responded, and she states the number one reason to save time is to save time and frustration. Number 2 reasons to save money and capitalize on design and styling. So of course, save time and frustration. We've talked about that. Stress-free, less frustration. Yes, save time. That's another big one. If you have to go and look for example, a photographer, you have to research, right? You might start looking at 10 photographers and slowly narrow down. Well, now if you've got a wedding planner, right, you might ask them, who do you recommend? Here's my budget, right? This is the style of photography I like. Give me 3 of your favorites. Well, now all of a sudden, you've got someone in budget, in the style that you want, and you've got your top 3. You've already saved some time. Time, of course, is money, as we all know. So there's another value for you to think about when you're working with a professional planner. And the number 2 reason, as she mentioned, was to save money. We've already talked about this, right? So how you can save money when you have a professional planning your event. And capitalize on design and styling. So this is another big one, right? Unless you've thrown weddings before, you know, or have been to hundreds of weddings before, you might not know what's out there, right? Yes, you can look online and look on Pinterest and do all that, but things you want to think about is what's been done, in the city you live in, for example. Maybe that crazy idea that you've seen halfway across the world simply isn't possible, right? Maybe those flowers are almost impossible to get in your city. Use your planner to help you determine what's available to you as far as design and styling goes within your city, within your budget. You can't go wrong. Those are all the responses we're going to be looking at today. To all the planners that responded, thank you very much. I agree with all of you. Again, I'm not here to sell any services to any of you viewers watching. This is just my feedback based on the hundreds of weddings I've hosted. I hope you'll continue to do your research, and you'll soon find, after you've dug just a little bit deeper, I hope you'll find that you agree with pretty much everything I've said. If you don't, that's okay too. Make sure you leave a comment below and let me know what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. I want to hear it all. Let me know what else types of videos you want to see related to weddings. For now, let's head back to the cold. Let's head back to the studio now. And we're back in my current studio for today. Now look, if you're planning a wedding for yourself or for someone, maybe you know someone that's planning a wedding, feel free to download my free ebook. It's 7 mistakes to avoid when planning your wedding. You can get it at weddingchecklistnow.com, 100% free. So head on over there, get your checklist now. weddingchecklistnow.com. Thanks again for watching, and please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already done so. For now, this is MC Spade signing off.